Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
All right, everybody, welcome to Drive Central. For this, this is the third show we've done. So we've done some. I think we did the defensive backs and D line before, and now we're hitting up the running backs. And running backs are going to be like a big topic of conversation for every team in this draft, because even if you don't need one, this could be a draft where you get a backup. If you do need one, you might want to try to draft like the Raiders might want to draft more than one. That might be in their best interest to draft more than one, considering what they have at running back right now. I do it with myself. I'm the host of the Put on Raiders podcast, the USC Student Body Right USC podcast. And I do also a podcast with Solo Lopez. We do the signal caller, draft stuff, quarterback stuff, and then Jay's in here too. We also do Raider Spaces Wednesday nights if you're a Raider fan, so you want to check that out as well. And then Nonsense is all over doing a bunch of different. My co-host is doing a bunch of different stuff with the draft as well too. So some good draft stuff here going on. What are your first takes about this running back class as we kind of talk about that right now?
Yeah, sure. And, to start off, normally we'll kind of, rip through our general thoughts and opinions on the class. And then, we open the floor up and encourage everyone to come up and grab a mic and, share your opinions, ask questions, talk about some of the guys that you're seeing and you're looking at. But running back is always a position that I look fondly of. Obviously, I think a lot of people would argue that this is one of the better running back classes we've had in a very long time. And I'd certainly agree with that. I think in general, everybody is always looking to point to one positional group within a given draft class to say, this is the area that we really want to focus on. And again, by and large, this year, I do agree with that. It's a very exciting class with, I would say, based on what I've seen in the past, like a lot of really good pass blockers in this draft class, which means, when you're looking at it from, a standpoint of when are these players going to be able to see the field, if you're a capable receiver, you're a capable pass blocker, and you have running upside, that's going to get you onto an NFL field faster than some of the other guys that struggle in those areas. So I think a lot of guys in this draft, all the way up and down, and it's not just the top guys. I think there are some guys that you're going to be able to find day 2 and day 3 that might be able to see the NFL field, just given the skill set that they bring in this draft class.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people because people will ask me like, "Hey, how come this rookie's not playing?" And I'm like, "It's because he's because he probably can't pass block. Like his pass pro is probably weak. So if you're not protecting the quarterback on those passing downs, because nobody wants to have a running back come on the field where they know that it's like a given that he's getting the ball, or you want to have some variety in your offense to be able to do those things. So that makes sense. Pass pro is huge in the NFL. You don't have to be elite at it, but at the very least, you want to be serviceable and dependable in that category. So, who's a guy who you think is um, a back who people aren't talking enough about, and then you can give me a back who people are not, or who people are talking a little bit too much about.
Yeah, certainly have a couple of guys in both categories. I think a guy that people are probably not talking enough about is Damian Martinez, 5'11", 220 pounds. I think this guy has a true path to be, to be, a 15 to 20 touch a game guy if given the right situation. He's got fantastic vision and contact balance on inside run plays specifically, but he also has a very, very innate ability to bounce it outside when it's not there on the inside. He was second in yards after contact. He had a 98.3 success rate on third and short. He had a 30% success rate when contacted behind the line of scrimmage. And just for reference, that's the best in this class. He's a phenomenal straight line runner. Gets downhill quickly, but has again, as I mentioned, enough lateral quickness to bounce it outside when it's not there inside. And I think you just generally speaking, and Cortland has heard me talk about this a lot, but just generally speaking, he has a really good understanding for his pace as a runner. when to accelerate, when to decelerate, when to kind of, hover around and let the play and the blocking develop for him. Again, he's not going to be one of those explosive guys or, anybody that has the measurables that are really jumping off the scale. But we've seen him on multiple occasions rip off big chunk runs. He's not a fantastic receiver, so again, when we're talking about rookie running backs and having to understand blocking protections and having to understand, you know, um, what his keys are within a given offense. If you don't have that passing upside and you're not maybe known as a great pass blocker, it might be a little tough for you to see the field early. But this guy's good enough as like a power runner, to be able to figure to be able to see the field early. And I would say he's probably more suited for like a power gap scheme, but just given his patience and his ability to be able to bounce it outside when he has to, I don't think he would have a challenge if he was required to do a little bit more zone, than gap. But Damian Martinez is definitely one of those guys I feel like people are not talking about. Um, I'm also going to mention, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of guys on this list, but um, Jaden Blue out of Texas, I think, is one of the guys that has really kind of just gotten lost in all of the talent and all of the big name people that we see in this class. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds, exceptional athleticism. And I think probably one of the reasons that we don't talk enough about him is they didn't really run through him a lot in that offense. And I don't think that's because it's his fault. I mean, when this guy has gotten in space, when he was called on to be a receiver, when he was called on to be a runner. He had great explosiveness and good ability to be able to rip off big chunk plays. He's got very quick feet. He's a smooth glider. And again, this guy can hit the fucking gas pedal like no other in this draft class. Um, I think Jadon Blue is just one of those guys that isn't getting enough love, because he wasn't like this big bell cow guy in college. But again, I think that was more of a context of the offense that they were running than it was Jadon Blue just wasn't good enough to be that guy. Whether he fits to be a three down runner is to be determined. I think personally, this guy is going to thrive more in a situation where he can be a spell back. I look at a team like Miami. I look at a team like, the 49ers, where he can really come in and kind of spell against a defense that's probably a little bit tired from going up against the previous guy that they were facing. But Jadon Blue, I think, is one of those guys that not enough people are talking about. And I honestly want to say Quinshon Judkins because I feel like everybody is talking about Travion Henderson. And look, some people like Quinshon Judkins and some people really don't. But at 6 foot, 220 pounds, like he runs like a running back that's closer to the 200-pound mark than the 220 mark. He's powerful downhill, but he has the patience and acceleration to get outside when he has to. He has some of the most ferocious stiff arms that you will ever see in college football. He's also got a solid truck stick, one fumble over the past 2 years. And I think personally, some of the best vision in the class. Like he's got exceptional vision, whether it's inside or outside. Like he finds the hole and has the patience to wait for those holes to develop, as opposed to a guy like Travion Henderson who's got straight line track speed but doesn't have good hips. I think he's really good north and south. I don't particularly think he's a guy that uses his athleticism to provide agility and bounce it back and find holes. I think he's got terrible vision, in my opinion, and really the type of player that you have to get in space. Whereas Quinshon Judkins, like he can run power inside and he has the speed and vision to run, wide zone and get to the edge and chunk off big plays. And, by the way, like I like to trust what I think the coaches are thinking. And when Ohio State was in an important situation and they absolutely had to have it in a close game or an important game this season, it was Quinshon Judkins that they were calling on, not Travion Henderson. So personally, and again, I know this guy is a very well-known name, but for me, people are not talking about Quinshon Judkins enough, particularly because they're talking about Travion Henderson way too much. I'll probably stop there on guys that I think people aren't talking enough about and transition into guys who I think people are talking way too much about, starting with Travion Henderson. Again, blazing track speed. He's got decent hands in the passing game, but I don't think he necessarily has the wiggle to like kill you and use that speed on, some of those sharper routes out of the backfield. He's the guy where I wanna, get a delay screen going, get him in a wide open field, and then let him run as fast as possible with his straight line speed. I don't think he has great vision. The one thing I will say that people don't talk enough about with Travion Henderson is he's probably one of the best pass blockers in this class. And it's really it's kind of shocking to see a guy that profiles as such a good athlete and and has such good track speed that also happens to double as an exceptional pass blocker. Um, I fear how much other teams may be overvaluing, his athleticism and what his true value is to a football team. But I think this guy profiles as someone who can see the field in his rookie season, particularly as a third down back with his fantastic pass blocking ability and obviously home run hitter. Um, tool set if you get him, in the short passing game with space. He's certainly one of the guys that I feel like we're just way overvaluing. And I'm also gonna I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that a guy I think we're talking way too much about is Amarian Hampton. Amarian Hampton is exceptional. He has explosive straight line speed and acceleration. The amount of times I watched, two to three defenders try to converge on Amarian Hampton in a hole, and either he bounces off of them and rips off a 60 to 70-yard touchdown, or he's just so fast that it looks like they're going to be able to tackle him, but he ends up popping loose and running right by him without even being touched. I think because of all of these home run highlight reel plays that Amarian Hampton has, I think people have kind of slotted him in as like this unanimous running back in this class that, if it wasn't, that should be in contention with Ashton Genty in some regards. He's a more explosive runner than Ashton Genty, but I think he's more of a linear downhill gap runner than he is a guy that has enough patience and lateral wiggle to be able to thrive in his own scheme. So if this guy is really, I would say, dependent on one type of offensive scheme in order for him to thrive, for me, that doesn't justify drafting this guy anywhere towards even the top 20 picks in this year's first round. So, and again, like he's got exceptional speed, in a power gap scheme. Like I think this guy would be unbelievable with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I think he would be an absolute home run. I think he would be an immediate starter. I think he could be, a 15 to 1600-yard scrimmage guy in his rookie year. But I think it's important to understand what scheme this guy plays well in and what scheme he doesn't play well in. And I think more people need to get wider and deeper into the film to understand that, as opposed to just turning on YouTube and watching a highlight reel of this guy ripping off 70-yard runs. He's a fantastic player. He's one of the best pass blockers in this draft, and I think he's going to be a really, 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 really good football player in the NFL. I just don't think as highly of him as everyone is making it out to be. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense. So I would say one thing about the I know some people will make like you made a comment that like people have to dive into the film. I will say this about college football opposed to pro football. College football film is much harder to obtain than NFL film. If you just pay the like $9 a month, you can watch all the NFL film, all 22 you want. You kind of gotta like be like a you know you gotta search and find some spots or some people who might have some information. So I got access to film, but I can't but I can't even just share how I got it. So you know what I mean? Because and if you post any of it, a lot of times people will the schools will have you take it down
Mhm.
on YouTube. So that's why some of the breakdowns. I also did a breakdown of Action Genti as well. So I'll put that in the jumbotron for this space as well, so people can kind of take a look at that. I think the guy who I really just don't I would not. He's a cool story. He's a good he's a good prospect. I am not really like I'm kind of interested to see what Cam Scatterboo would be as an NFL player. I just don't want my team to be the experiment. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those guys where you say, like, hey, if he goes out there and he goes out there and ends up being a really good running back, I can live with it, and I can say, hey, you know what? Great job by, the Texans or whoever drafts him or whatever. Me personally, I would kind of stay away from him. There's something about like it's something about his game that I'm having trouble a little bit seeing if it translates to the NFL. I think he needs to be with a specific type of offensive team to kind of be successful. I could be dead wrong. He has proved everybody's wrong. He almost single handedly took ASU to the to far into the playoffs. So I definitely give him a lot of credit for his abilities. But I would say, a guy who people talk about a lot, who say you would see people say, "Hey, I want Scatterbo, I want Scatterbo." Scatterbo would not be a guy who I would in this draft class unless he was a second back. And I'm on PFF's big board right now for running backs right now, and they have him as a top 50 pick. Like they have Genti first, they have Omari Hampton second, and then they have Cam Scatterbo third in this draft. The production's there. There's things that are there. He's older. So he's older than some of these backs. He's more mature. But I would say, for me, it's a great story. I would probably let somebody else tell that story when there's this many prospects in the draft, unless you are a team who's going to draft. You mentioned like Blue. Like if you're gonna take multiple, if your plan is to take multiple backs, then go ahead. But if he's like the one, you got one chance at one of these running backs in this draft. I would say, you know, that would be a guy who I like in the draft. As far as as talented as this draft class is, you have to also look at the fact that maybe only 3 to 4 of these guys can come into the league immediately and just be like, okay, here's 25 carries, boom, let's go. A lot of these guys need to be in tandem situations, and a lot of them are coming from tandem situations. So instead of having them get like blown out and buried on the bench because they can't pass block, and they can't do this, they can't do that. Like I feel like it's very for some of these guys to make sure that you have them in tandem situations. I think it's a reason why Ohio State had those guys in tandem. They just saw 2 guys with different approaches, and it worked out great for them. They could just do a myriad of different things in Chip Kelly's run game because they had that ability to have 2 guys in tandem. For a guy who I think when people aren't talking about enough, I really do. I know he's a little bit taller, a little bit of a long strider, but I do like Caleb Johnson a lot. I think he's very productive. I think he can do a lot of different things on a football field for you. He would be a guy who I would definitely just love to, just have on my football team. Iowa is known for tight ends and known for running the football, and I think Caleb Johnson would be a really good addition to any for a football team there. RJ Harvey is a guy as well too. There's a lot of different things he can do. Some of these guys have that ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, he's one of them. So I definitely would look at a guy like RJ Harvey. On the back end, you mentioned about Damian Harris. I guess my version of Damian Harris would be Devin Neal. I think Devin Neal his ability to just catch the ball out of the backfield and just be a jack of all trades is a guy who can really do so much for a football team and really help you just go out there and just catch it, run it, um, like he's one of the guys who they say he's not fast, but when he has that open field, he doesn't really get caught from behind very often. Like you know what I'm saying? So those are kind of things that I really like about Devin Neal. And I do share your view on Jadon Blue. I think Jadon Blue in a, especially on a turbo, especially put him on a field with a turf team. In that sense, he could be a guy who can just really take the top off and do something really special with the football, as far as that goes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. RJ Harvey is he's one of those honorable mention guys for me. Cortland knows I'm absolutely in love with RJ Harvey, but I also think it's important to be realistic about what he is. 5'8", 207, elite change of direction and creativity. I think personally, he's got the quickest feet in the class, and he has a jump cut from hell. Okay. So, when you think about a running back that can start on a dime, restart the speed bar at video game speed, and reverse field if needed, that's RJ Harvey. I think where RJ Harvey struggles is the vision, the patience, power, and ability to be able to finish through contact and short yardage. And, obviously, I think the glaring hole that he has is pass blocking. So I think, for a guy that is really explosive, really creative, has exceptionally quick feet, and great ability to be able to change direction, I think he might struggle to see the field early at the NFL level because of some of the holes that he has, particularly vision and pass blocking. But I mean, he's super productive, like 3,700 yards, 43 touchdowns. For me to like give people an idea for his explosive playability, I'd say his play style is very similar to like a Kenneth Walker without the vision, if that makes sense. But for me, he was one of my favorite players to watch. He's listed as an honorable mention, and I love talking about him. But
Again,
I
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and to that point, like I said, like it's only about, like, as talented as this class is, as a rookie, you are asking a lot of a rookie running back to be the number one back and give him 30 carries a game and play on all three downs. Like the majority of them are going to be guys who have to be in tandem, change of pace, stuff like that. Or guys who take the load off a veteran running back who's already on the NFL roster. So like kind of keep that and like they might grow into a starter down the road, but like right now, like don't I mean I wouldn't fill my fantasy team with a bunch of with Dylan Sampson right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just not. You're asking a whole lot of these running backs, and also like running backs have to play special teams. Like some of these guys probably haven't played special teams in forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't think Aston Jetty's playing special teams or Mario Hampton's playing special teams, stuff like that. But I mean, some of these guys who, like, once you get in the later rounds, who were stars at some other schools, they might have to play special teams. Pass cover on punts or kickoffs. So you gotta look at that. You gotta look at that part of it too. I mean, one of the best running backs I've ever seen play. He made the roster on being a special
Terrell
teamer,
Davis.
Terrell Davis. Like, that hit, if that hit he had on special teams, if he doesn't make that hit, then he might not even, who knows what Terrell Davis would have been. I think also the market after the draft for undrafted free agents, um, you know, um, he was going to be huge in this particular draft for running backs, because you have on the back end of this draft, and you have people like Donovan Edwards, who might not, Raheem Sanders, Jaquavius Marks, people like that. Like those are people who are highly productive college football players, can do a whole lot of different things, but in this draft might not get drafted because of the depth of this class.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an interesting guy that I think had a lot of buzz at one point and kind of fell off of a cliff. It's a guy I'm kind of really excited to bring back into the light, but that guy's Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State, 6'2", 225. He's a big faller this year. I think it's probably mostly related to production. If you look at 2024, 31, explosive plays or 15 yards or more. In 2025, he only had 8, right? And I think the one thing I believe that factored into that, if you watch the tape, is just, the blocking might not have been as good this past season as it was the year before. But He's not like a great athlete on paper either. So,
Uh-huh.
I think that could be another reason where people look at 6'2", 225 and, don't really bat an eyelash to that. But he's got several breakaway plays and has, shown the speed to be able to take a pitch to deep center field if he finds a crease, right? I've seen him, bounce a play outside and get up the field for 20, 30 yards. Like, he's 6'2", 225, not a air quote great athlete, but he's chunked off some big plays in his career.
Yeah.
I think he's also got elite hands, and a very good route running ability. Like, they shift him out wide into the slot and run him as a true receiver in that passing offense. They swing him out of the backfield in the short passing game, get him in space with his acceleration and power. He's able to break tackles and, chunk off big plays in the short passing game. He's also a fantastic blocker. And I will add a caveat to that, right? He's a fantastic pass blocker, but at 6'2", 225, I think he probably ends up on the ground a little bit too much for a guy that size. A little bit like too much, chop blocking and stuff like that. So you'd like to see him get coached into using his frame to sustain blocks a little bit better at the NFL level.
Uh-huh.
But he's got really good vision. I think personally he can play in both gap and zone schemes. He's got elite contact balance and power. And all in all, I think he's really one of my favorite running backs in the class. He really, like, when I was watching him initially, like, before I like started writing down notes or anything, he reminds me of Braylon Allen. That's an elite football player. Like, he moves like him, he looks like him. I think they both wear the number 0, but he's what Braylon Allen would look like if Braylon Allen was an elite football player. Not an elite running back, but an elite football player, if that makes sense. I really like Ollie Gordon, and I hope he gets a good shot in the NFL because I do think that he can be special. Again, he's not going to be, long breakaway, explosive plays, but he will be able to get you, some 20, 30, 40, maybe 50-yard plays. And who knows? Like, look at Derrick Henry. I don't, it's like, I think Ollie Gordon has a path to success in the NFL. And, again, I think he's just one of those guys that we're not talking about as much because of the drop off in production.
I'm gonna let some folks in here early because we got folks in the building. So let's hear questions. Let's hear what the comments they got to say about some of the running backs in this class. Anybody wants to step in, feel free to jump in, and I'll put you up. Jay, do you have anything to add to this class?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I have some sleepers that wonder what you guys think
Go ahead.
about them. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Real quick. Later in the draft. It depends on where you have them. LaQuint Allen out of Syracuse. Trevor Edding out of Georgia. Raheem Sanders out of South Carolina, and DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. What do you think of those guys? Late round guys.
Allen, Syracuse. I really like him. 6 feet, 200 pounds. Really productive receiver in college, and I think, he's one of those guys that can get a path to carries just given his positional versatility. He's got exceptional change of direction, great route running ability. Ran 74 routes out of the slot last year, by the way, guys.
Mm-hmm.
74 routes out of the slot. I think he's a very smooth route runner, and he's also like a great pass blocker. So this is the guy who, in his rookie year in the NFL, you can take him and put him on the field and, down and long or third down situations and know that you are going to have a guy that's a capable pass blocker, right? And we're not talking about chips and chop blocks. Like, this guy sets his pass pro and sticks his helmet in people's chests. Like, that's the type of pass blocker we're talking about here. And he's an exceptional route runner. So again, I think given his positional versatility, his ability to pass block, his ability to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, I think he figures to be an immediate third down back in the NFL as a rookie. And I really like LaQuint Allen. Who was the other guy that
I
you
would say
mentioned?
for Giddens, I do like he's a little bit taller than
Yeah.
most of the backs. He's 6'1". He does have good long speed, patient runner, one cut and go. So a lot of people who like those kind of backs will be a guy he'll be a guy who people will like tremendously. To me is like what is his pad level playing at 6'1"? That's because you want to at least have low pad level so people have less to tackle. So that would be that'd be one thing I would look for with him. But I do like him. K State has a little good some good runners who come into the league too as well. So I think that's
I,
a
What
program
about
fit.
Raheem
I'm
Sanders? What
slightly
about Raheem
lower.
Sanders out of South Carolina? I
I,
know he's
I
fast.
like
Is that all he is?
I do like
Well,
him.
I don't know about fast, but
He might I mean I
He's
still
more of a
think
quick dude. I'd say quick. I would say like
it's
quickness
quick.
not
over
that he's
as a
quick. You know what Raheem Sanders is? He's just a really smart football player, and he has great spatial awareness. So, like when you watch Raheem Sanders, you will watch him evade tackles and run past people, but it's not like he's running by people and juking
Sure.
people. He just is a really smart football player that has, I would say, elite spatial awareness, but he's not a great athlete. Like he's not really going to break away from people. He's more so just going to take the right steps and make the right moves in the context of the run in order to be able to continue running. But because he's able to do that at such an elite level, if you watch his highlights, you may think he's running by people. But in my opinion, it's more of his spatial awareness and ability to understand which steps to take as an active runner in space than it is him actually running by people. Like Rocket Raheem, I like again, he's a smart football player. Those are hard to come by. You love smart football players on your team, but I think it's going to be really hard for him to be anything more than a change of pace power back or maybe
What
goal line specialist.
One last guy because he ran a really fast 40 time is
yeah.
Pashul Tootin out of Virginia Tech.
He
He
did.
ran a 4.32. So I don't know.
What do you think about him?
Well, the huge fumbling issues, like just
Mm.
zero ability to be able to hold on to the football. I think Bashal Tutin is very specific. You put him in a wide zone scheme and let him rip off home runs. And just to give you context, like think of the Miami Dolphins. Like they run a lot of motion out of the backfield, a lot of wide zone stuff, and they're looking for big gaps to send their straight line track runners, 70 yards down the field. I think
Like like
that's a
mo like
situation where
most of you
Bashal Tutin could thrive
like most used to
like
do for
most
them. Used
are
to do for yeah.
correct.
Makes sense.
Correct. But like I don't think Bayshaw Tootin is really a guy that I want touching the football, 15 to 18 times a game. He's just too inconsistent with his ball security. And again, I think he's just super specific in terms of what you're going to get out of him. Explosive player though, right? We like explosives out of the backfield, so I'm sure he'll find his way into an offense some way, shape, or form. But I can't
What do you see
imagine
these
him
guys all
having
getting picked that I brought up?
what?
Like rounds? What rounds do you guys see any of these guys getting picked up? Are these
I
guys a
don't.
lot of second could be potential like
Oh,
a
oh,
team
oh,
looking for a third down?
other guy, other guys you mentioned, I think they're probably all second round and later. Of
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
other guys you mentioned, yeah, I don't
But
think those guys are first rounders.
by the
No,
way,
no, I didn't think first. That's why I
Hold
said
on one
sleepers.
second.
Like, are you going to be able
I got
like where's value?
B Smoke and Jay Wayne. We got you coming up. I saw your hands. We got you coming up. Go ahead.
I was just like looking at value for these guys. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like where you see what the value would be. That's all.
yeah. I'm getting.
I'll be honest, like I'm not one of those guys that's really gonna like try to figure out where this guy should go in the draft. I'm more like I'll tell you what I've seen, what their traits are, and kind of let you decide what you think a player of that caliber should go in a draft. But I won't really get too involved on the positional draft
All right,
type
cool.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and to ask that question, I to like I only see I see three possible running backs in the first round. So like, and then I think it would be Genty, Hampton, and maybe one of the Ohio State running backs, but probably Caleb Johnson. They'll be the three guys who I would think I would see in the draft. So thanks, Jay. B Smoke, what's up?
Yeah.
Hey everybody. Hey, real quick, what's your guys' overall view on Dylan Sampson?
I mean, I like Dylan Sampson. I think he's probably a little polarizing, right? I guess you would consider him to be on the shorter side, but I think he's around like 5'8",
Yeah.
but he's 200 pounds. Like he's not a twig. I think he's super fluid, like really fluid. Like he moves like water. He has like some guys have a really good ability to change direction, but it's a hard step on that directional change. Whereas when Dylan Sampson changes direction, it's like, oh my God, like this guy is moving like water out there. I really like his fluidity as a runner. I think he also has really good vision. He's also explosive, right? So if he can
Yeah.
find holes and find creases, like he has home run ability. And I think again, we're always looking to add explosives out of the backfield. Um,
Oh yeah.
in terms of like,
Real quick,
oh, go ahead.
if you're doing research on these guys, PFF has him at 5'11", and everywhere else has him at 5'8". So just
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
just look at the
Throw him 5'9.5" and call it good.
yeah, like, just look at just do like a little bit of like a little bit of research on like as far as like using different sites, because you don't want to be don't be stuck on one of them, because he's not everywhere. I'm not when you said 5'8", and I'm looking and it says 5'11", I'm like, I thought he pretty much was 5'8". So I mean, I'm not sure where they got that. So go
Right.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I think he'll be a slightly better pro than I think he showed in college, especially if he gets on the right team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like.
Are you a Tennessee fan?
No, I'm not actually. I just
Oh, it's even better. It's even better. It's even better.
just a good football fan. That's all.
That's good. Perfect.
yes,
That's
sir.
even better. I love
By the
that.
way, like, if there's anybody that we talk about in this space that anybody has a disagreement on or wants more clarification, like, please jump in and ask those questions or, have those crossfires with us. Like, we want this to be as collaborative as possible. This isn't the Bible. This is just
Yeah.
based on what we're seeing and, potentially, our perception and opinion on the players. So I just wanted to encourage everybody
Jay
to
Wayne,
not feel bad about
J Dub,
crossfiring with
J
us.
Dub, get in here.
Yo, yo,
What's
yo.
up?
It's good, man. How you feeling today?
It's a beautiful day in California. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. I love Ollie Gordon. I love Caleb Johnson.
Yes.
I don't think they're the two best, but I love them the most out of all these running backs.
Yep.
One running back that I'm really interested in though is one that you mentioned earlier, Woody Marks.
Uh,
Um, I I think he has great burst. I don't think he has the top end speed, although I think he runs on the field faster than his 40-yard dash indicates. I think he's great as a receiver out of the backfield.
Phenomenal as a
Um,
receiver out of the backfield.
yeah, I think his deficiencies come in pass pro. At least that's what I've seen. And then I think he can get a little stronger in finishing some of his runs. Um,
He also can do kickoff stuff. So I talked about special teams with some of these running backs.
yeah,
He can do it, and like
yep.
I'm glad somebody else brought up Woody Marks, because I'm a USC fan. So if I bring up Woody Marks, people Jay's gonna kill me saying you're bringing up USC guys. But I do think, I mean, like I said, he's a guy who will get drafted late or be an undrafted free agent. And
Yeah.
I do think if you want to pop on the game against Michigan, I think that will be a game where like
Oh yeah.
he's playing against a top defensive line, and watch his inside runs. He is pretty slick. Very slippery to take down. A very good back. A very good back.
Yes, sir.
Cool. I think we had JX was next.
JX and then
JX next, and then J.
JXJ and then B Smoke.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Just first off, I want to say I want y'all to appreciate this running back class because there's 20 legit guys that could be somebody
100%.
if depend on the team fit and who comes to work day one. So I think this is a great space to talk about it. But the three guys that are constantly have been on my mind is, I'm gonna say it again, and I promise you this is going to work. Rashard Smith from
man.
SMU is so freaky.
Oh yeah.
He played 1 year of running back.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of guys in here who are like, oh, he's a great receiving out of the backfield, this is that. But Rashard actually played wide receiver at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
If you see him split out wide, you would go, is he a wide receiver prospect? So when he goes to the NFL, he may be used in so many different ways that he's going to contribute to a team right away, and he's not going to be picked high. And I think that's the reason why, because he's so versatile. People are like, is he a running back? I don't know. We'll just pick the running backs first, and we'll pick him last and kind of see where he goes. The dude is freaky fast, freaky agile. He's not the biggest, but he could eventually maybe gain a little bit of weight if they decide that he is going to be a running back.
JX, you know who he
The
reminds
second,
you know who he reminds me of though? Tyrone
which
Tracy.
reminds you of,
Tyrone Tracy from
Ooh.
last year. Tyrone
yeah,
Tracy,
but that's a crazy. He's a juiced up Tyrone
right.
Tracy
Tyrone
because
Tracy was the
he's a
same
way
way.
freakier athlete.
Yeah, Tyrone Tracy was the same way. Played receiver most of his career, made the transition at Purdue to running back, and you saw what he was able to do in New York this year. So
And if he's a running back, he'll be fresh.
Exactly.
He don't got that many carries on his body.
He's one
Exactly.
of the best receiving running backs I've ever charted in my life. He is unbelievable as a receiver out of the backfield. JX. Like it cannot be
He's
understated.
impeccable.
Yeah, it cannot be understated how good of a receiving back this guy is. It's really, I mean, it's impressive. Who are
Another
your other
guy I
two
want
guys?
to,
Yeah.
yeah, no, another guy I wanted to highlight. You already highlighted one of them already. But I'm going to go with Damian Martinez. I was kind of late to the Damian Martinez boat because he was overshadowed by Cam Ward so much that I kind of put him off to the side and really didn't focus on him. But I really got an opportunity to watch him recently, and I really think he's going to be pretty good too. Um, great anticipation for the holes that are opening. I really wish they bailed cowed him more to really see what he could do, but he's very strong. Can run fast. He's not a home run guy, but he can get there. But I really like Damian Martinez too. But I'm putting my mortgage on Brashard
Okay.
though.
And then who's number three?
I'm putting the mortgage on Brashard.
Who is your number three before we move on? You said there were three guys. You named two.
Yeah, I know, but it was somebody mentioned them.
Oh, gotcha.
DJ Giddens, I think it was.
Okay.
Oh, it
Okay.
was
Yeah.
probably Ollie Gordon, bro.
No, it wasn't Ollie Gordon.
Go ahead, Jay.
So I know we're talking about how like this deep this class is. I always get concerned when they talk about a class for any like, are there like who are going to be high end guys? That's what I wonder about this. Like, are they just all starting? Like, you have a lot of starting running backs, but are there who are potential game changers besides Genty? Is what I'm wondering. That's what's concerning for me.
On the top end.
Because I've seen this before in other drafts where we have like, hey, we have a lot of depth here, in certain positions, and then yeah, the depth's there, and these guys are starters, but that's what they are. So that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, it could be tough though because it's like it's so dependent on where they go sometimes too. Like you know what I mean? Like so on the top end, I do. I mean, Hampton is going to be right there. Hampton's going to be right there. I like Caleb Johnson a lot. So like that would be a guy who I would think. Then I mean, I think you're talking about the kind of thing that I was talking about is like there's four. That's probably even as talented as class is, there's probably only like 3 or 4 guys who are going to be able to say, "Hey, I can hand the ball off to this guy." And give him 25, 30 carries in his rookie season and it'd be a thing. Like it's probably 3 or 4 guys. Everybody else needs to be in a tandem. Like you got to be in a kind of a tandem situation here. You can't sit there and say like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and
Wait,
just give him the ball like
so
every
you
single
think?
time.
I'm just curious. You think Hampton is like a 30? Like you're giving that guy 30 carries a game right off the bat?
I mean, no,
Well, you're not. Hold on. You're not giving many running
no,
backs in the NFL 30
no running
carries a
back in football is
game.
going to do. I'm using it as just an example, but no running back in football is getting that anyway. But I'm just saying like a guy
Mm.
just to be your bell cow. I'm starting running back as a pro, as a rookie. I
Mm.
do.
But Jay, there are definitely guys like I mean there are always going to be guys like look at Chase Brown, right? I mean later draft pick, he's a starter now, right? And like some people were high on him, I wasn't particularly high on him, and look at him now in the NFL. So there are definitely always going to be guys that are not talked about as like the top 2 or 3 guys that are going to end up finding their way onto a field. We try to do a good job of kind of going through as many prospects as we can and stuff like that. But if you want to have like a deep breakdown in terms of like all the guys I've charted, I'm happy to do a follow up with you and
Well, I've been
talk
looking
to you
at
about
film
it.
too, and that's where I'm concerned about. Like, I always get concerned about, like,
But I mean, but
sort
I
of.
mean, you wouldn't be disappointed if you had a really if you don't if you have two if you have a really good tandem and like
Sure, no, that's
but you
fine.
don't have but you don't have like the top end Genty type. You're still gonna be good.
Sure.
Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense
Um,
too.
I think B Smoke and then D Brown and then Cortland and then any football.
All right, so let's go beat smoke real quick. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm liking this running back class actually. Like I like in the defensive line in this year's class is this is a great year to get your chess pieces, your depth. I think you're going to see a lot of these running backs on special teams. I even think somebody like, for instance, Khalil Mullins, based on his coming up as a linebacker, he could be an awesome special teams chess piece for somebody. I like it. It's not overall super talented, but there's a lot of good athletes, and I think you're going to see a surprise amount of them, especially with the weak linebacker class. Running backs taken to be used on special teams this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead, D Brown.
Yeah, what's going on, fellas? Um, so a couple of running backs. Well, first of all, this running back class is amazing. We're gonna look back on this class in years and be like, man,
Why
she
is
was
this on?
legendary. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, D. You're good.
Yeah. So two sleepers. One, I think somebody mentioned DJ Giddens when I popped in. Love that guy. He doesn't get talked about at all, or much really, because the class is so deep. And another one is Jaden Blue. Major home run hitter, shifty, twitchy
Yep.
guy.
Yeah, I love Jadon Blue. I'm not as big on Giddens as maybe everyone else. Um, I definitely heard that he's got good patience, which I can definitely get down with. I just think sometimes he might be a little bit too patient. Um, I don't think he has like excellent vision. I think he's got great vision in the open field as a ball carrier and the athleticism to be able to create plays once he's in space. But I don't think he has like an elite ability to find space. And I think he's one of those players that needs to have the space created for him. I mentioned Travion Henderson as a guy that's in a similar kind of tier when it comes to vision and do they find space or does space need to be created for them? And I think for me, Giddens is one of those guys where the space kind of needs to be created for him. He runs into traffic a lot, and again, I think sometimes he's a little bit too patient in that backfield, and just can't find the hole fast enough.
Who would you consider space finders?
Well, I mean, for one, I think Jadon Blue is an excellent space finder. I think Quinshon Judkins is a phenomenal space finder. I think, Dylan Sampson is a good space finder. I think Ollie Gordon can find his own space. I think there are enough guys that can find space in this class to not take on, I think, what I would consider to be slightly more of a project with Giddens. But he's got the athletic profile to make you want to take him. But personally, I just think he needs a little bit more work. And that's
Yeah.
just my personal opinion. Again, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
one of 4 people that have spoken in this
Let's
space that like DJ Giddens, and I just have a different opinion, and that's totally fine. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
yeah.
My thing
like
on Gordon
it's
is I just think it's too much. It's too much wear and tear
Yeah.
mm,
on that back
Let
in
me get
comparison to the
yeah.
any football in here real quick. Are you are you the guy who likes Billy Zappi?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there you go. There you go. I knew your handle looked familiar. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead,
Well,
talk.
I like Zappy because of his demeanor of being a quarterback. That's really what the team needed at that time.
Yeah, no,
But
I understand. I understand. But I just remember that. I remember your handle because of the stuff you posted about Zappy. But go ahead. Want to run it
no
backs?
problem. My biggest question about this draft: there's a lot of catching running backs in the league right now. Is there anybody in this draft that you could see being like the next, like Derrick Henry or like a Chubb, someone that's going to run downhill? I mean, probably Neil is probably the only one.
I could say for downhill, just like the power, just you looking for a power back.
Yeah, because I don't think football is really getting away from that.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's enough of those kind of running backs in the league right now.
It's two guys, so I got to see how fast they can hit the hole though in the NFL. But I would say Scatterb will be one of them. The other guy who I like to do just a power running back, I cannot pronounce his last name. The kid from Rutgers. Manangai, yeah. So those would be the two guys I would look at. I do think. I mean, if you can get those guys to the next level as far as like past the line of scrimmage, like couple yards on the field, like in late in games, people are not going to want to tackle those individuals. So so you know what I mean. Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think there's more than that.
Yeah.
Right.
There's more. I just gave a couple guys that off the top of my head. So,
yeah. I think Quinshawn Judkins is definitely one of those guys. I think he's the top guy in this draft if you're talking about downhill power guy, right? A guy who, as the game goes on, he gets better and better and better. He's a battering ram.
Mm-hmm.
He can make you miss, but if you go look at the national championship game, Notre Dame got tired of having to hit 225 pounds running downhill over and over and over again. He kind of runs. He runs very reminiscent to Marshawn Lynch, where it's rough and tumble, right? Kind of can make you miss, but he's not trying to make you miss, right? Like if he can, he's going to hit you. He's going to make you feel him. I think Jordan James out of Oregon is another guy like that.
Yeah, I like him.
That once he gets going, once the wheels get churning, he's hard to bring down. Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne is another one. Khalil Mullings, I think, is very underrated.
Orland, I think we lost you. You're in the Matrix.
Yeah, just come back up and we'll get back up. Good space, definitely good space, guys. Today, you could tell that the running backs are on people's minds 100% in this draft. Like you can because they're flying in here, left and right. Anybody else want to get up in here? Who's next person?
I think we had JX had his hand up. Cortland, when you get a chance, you might have to drop and come back up, bro. Go ahead, JX. Then B Smoke.
I'm cool.
All right, B Smoke. What's on your mind, my man?
So let me throw this out at you. What team do you think makes the most sense, and what team do you think is willing to throw out the most to make a move to get Genty?
So I think that can I just go because people are just like because people are just trying to put Genty in silver and black, left and right. I personally,
it's going to happen. It's happening.
I mean, it's gross that's happening. But I will say this: is he going to be productive? Is he a really good football player? Absolutely, I would. But for me, when I look at the team needs, I would rather go. If they're not going to get a quarterback, which sounds like they're not going to get a quarterback, they're going to be all in on Geno once that deal gets done. I would rather go in this particular draft. I would rather go Tet, trade back, or Tet, and then draft a couple of running backs. When you look at the head coach and you look at the offensive coordinator, both guys have always been run first guys. They've been top 10 in running attempts. Yeah, I think and like eight out of the 12 years or whatever, 8 out of a majority of the years that Pete Carroll's been in football, he's been a run first guy. Same thing when Chip Kelly was in Philly. So I understand the run is going to be there. I just don't want to be a Ashton Genty injury away from watching Zamir White play football for the Raiders. So I don't even
know if he's on the team anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just so I would personally try to get 2 running backs and get a wide receiver because I think they need an X badly.
Well, I think he's also trying to understand like what teams in that top 10 do you think are a good fit?
Me personally, I mean, as I'm saying, like I mean, for me personally, I mean, the Giants could use that guy. I think the Patriots can use that guy. I mean he can fit pretty much any of these teams. like in my opinion. So like the Jets have Brees Hall, so that's not really a fit
And
a
Braden
really a fit
Allen.
there, and Brandon Allen. So I wouldn't say there. But I think any of those teams in the top
I mean, the
10 can
Jaguars
use
could
them.
use him.
I
The
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 Jaguars could definitely
Jaguars
use
the
him.
Jaguars can use
I
them.
Definitely use
think
him.
So
Tank is like profiles very a lot closer to Bucky Irving than I think a lot of people realize. Like Tank Bigsby is one of those guys that was not high coming out of college, but as he performed in the NFL as a runner and when he had to touch the ball 20 plus times a game was unbelievable. He looks like a larger version of Bucky Irving, and if you look at his advanced analytics and force missed tackle rate, he's literally side by side with Bucky Irving. So I don't think the Jaguars are going to be in the market to replace a guy like Tank Bigsby, who I think is only 22, will be 23 playing this season. Personally, I think the team that figures to benefit the most in the top 10 from Ashton Genty that needs to find something better out of the backfield are the Chicago Bears, right? I think Roschon Johnson is a solid runner. I think, DeAndre Swift is what he is. He's an explosive player that has good wiggle, but really can't find the space. You need to create the space for him. You need to get him out in the short passing game. I just think they need an overall guy that can come in there and if he has to touch the ball 20 times a game, be a really good pass blocker, be one of those guys that has enough positional versatility that when Ashton Genty is on the field, we don't know if you're running or passing. I think the Bears stand to benefit the most from that, just given the fact that I think the rest of the teams, at least inside of the top 10, have a guy or two that they can rely on for those things. That makes sense.
I mean the Bears have to the Bears. I mean they spent the entire offseason fixing the interior of the offensive line and their offensive line just in general. So like that would be a perfect situation for Genty to come in. You got Ben Johnson there, and Caleb Williams could definitely use as much help as humanly possible as far as getting a running game going. That would only make the team better. So that would be a perfect spot for him to me that you mentioned. Good job with that one.
Yeah.
Who's next? Who's next up in here?
I'm not sure if it's any football or Sparky.
It
Maybe
was Sparky.
Sparky. Okay. Go ahead, Sparky. What's up, bro?
Two quick questions. Do you guys in of any of the running backs in this draft? Do you guys see like situational or like goal line specific type backs?
It's funny. I talked about LaQuint Allen as a guy who will immediately be a third down running back, exceptional receiver, exceptional pass blocker. He's also got one of the highest success rates on goal and short in college football last year. Um, I think it was like he had like converted like 40 out of um, like 40 out of 45 second to go. He's actually surprisingly like pretty solid on the goal line. I think Raheem Sanders could be one of those guys. I think early on Ollie Gordon could be one of those guys. I think Devin Neal could absolutely be one of those guys. I think there are a lot of players in this draft that fit the profile or mold of somebody that you'd want to have in that situation. Cam Scatterboo, another one. But look, there are lots of running backs. Like I feel like everybody thinks that. Like I get concerned when I hear anybody that's like worried specifically about the ceiling of the class in general. Like I think I charted like 20 guys, and there's even more than that.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of running backs. If you guys want to get into the weeds, absolutely happy to do it in this space, but there are a lot of running backs out there, and there's certainly like plenty of guys that will be able to fit that
And it's
mold
going
for
to
sure.
be the undrafted market is going to be really competitive
I agree.
because they're going to be guys who don't get drafted who can certainly 100% fucking play
Yep.
in National Football League. It's just that this draft has just happens to have this many running backs in it. So
Yeah. And then what was your second question, Sparky?
No, it was just goal line or third down specialist type backs. That those
Yeah.
are the two.
My three favorite third down specialists in this class, and I'll probably go in order, are Definitely going to be LaQuint Allen number one, and just because LaQuint Allen is the only guy out of the three guys that I'm going to mention that are the best receivers that profiled as an exceptional blocker. So LaQuint Allen would be my number one third down back in this class, third down specific. I would probably say I'd probably say Lan Larison out of UC Davis. Like this is a guy who just lacks overall strength of competition that he played in college, but like he led all college running backs across any division in rush yards per game in 2024. And then last year in 2025, he led all college running backs in receiving with 853 yards. The next closest receiving running back had only 671 receiving yards. He's got great patience, great vision, great creativity. He's got really good contact balance, change of direction, and a fantastic jump cut. He is an elite route runner, phenomenal hands, really good pass blocker. And when I say really good pass blocker, we're talking pancake blocks. I think out of 53 pass blocking snaps that he had last year, he didn't allow a single pressure, right? I don't care if UC Davis, you're going to tell me it's a strength of competition thing. There's something about the level of consistency that he's been able to demonstrate both as a runner, a pass catcher, and a pass blocker that tells me this guy should be on an NFL team, especially in this third down capacity. I see a guy who should absolutely be touching the football in the NFL as a rookie with Lan Larison out of UC Davis, in my opinion. And then I think I would slot in Brashard Smith at number three, and that's really only because Brashard Smith doesn't have the pass blocking chops, right? 5'10", a little bit under 200 pounds, a converted wide receiver to running back. We've seen that story before. These guys create explosives out of the backfield and provide a mismatch in the passing game, right? He just does not have the power or the pass blocking chops to justify putting him over, in my opinion, a LaQuint Allen or Lan Larison. But those are the three immediate, like third down running backs that I can see having a really good role as rookies in the NFL. If that answers your question.
Of the two, who would you rather? Which one do you think's a better catcher, Lan Larson or Allen?
So Lan Larison is a better pure runner than LaQuint Allen. He's a better pure runner. I also think he's a little bit of a probably a little bit of a better route runner and has probably some of the best hands I've ever seen from a running back. You can actually watch Lan Larison's highlight reel, and you will see probably between 4 to 7 one-handed catches. You'll see him going up in double coverage in traffic and high pointing balls at the catch point as a receiver downfield. Um, I guess I would probably, now that I'm talking about this out loud and not just writing down the notes and watching the tape, I'd actually probably say Lan Larison because he doubles better as a true pure runner than I think LaQuint Allen does. LaQuint Allen is a good runner. He had solid production in college, over 1,000 yards rushing, I think under 200 carries at 2 straight years. Really, again, really productive receiver, good pass blocker. But Lan Larison is a true mismatch because when Lan Larison's on the field, he can run and he can pass block and he can catch at any area of the field. So I'd probably say for me, Lan Larison, and that's probably a shocker to a lot of people, but I've watched a lot of guys and a lot of tape, and I am telling you, this guy is real, and that's what I believe strongly in. If anybody else has another idea, I'm absolutely happy to hear it. But Sparky, for me, I truly, I mean, Lan Larison for me, he's exceptional.
All right, thanks.
I think Lan Larison is everything that people wanted Dylan Lobb to be, you know. But go ahead, any football.
Nonsense. This question's for you, bud. I know you're a Patriots fan and stuff like that too. Would you trade Stevenson and then go with the running back that supposed everybody wants, or would you rather stay with Stevenson?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I'd rather stay with Stevenson. I think Stevenson is one of the better pure runners in all of the NFL. I won't, sit up here in this space and tell you that he's top five, although there was a period of time where I would have told you that. He's absolutely a top eight pure runner in the NFL. For being, 6 feet and, over 220 pounds, he's got really quick feet, an ability to be able to change direction. He can run inside, outside, gap, zone. He's a really good pass catcher. He's had 70 receptions in a season, very productive runner, but he had a down year. And the offense as a whole in general for the Patriots was a down year. And so the production went way down and the fumbling went way up. Therefore, he's taking a huge hit on his true value as a player in the NFL. And I don't think that you're going to get a fair return for the value that he can provide to your team. Where you're just going to draft another guy who's like really, really good at the position, obviously better, probably going to be one of the better running backs in the NFL in Ashton Genty. But I think your value is better served as a front office keeping Ramondre and running him into the ground on that 3-year extension that he just signed last year than it would be to trade Ramondre Stevenson for a 6th-round pick and then draft Ashton Genty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for asking.
How
Appreciate
good?
it. Um,
How good is Genty?
Genty is exceptional. He is exceptional. He is, I mean, he's scheme proof. Whether you're running a power or gap type scheme, or a wide zone, I think Ashton Genty has the patience and the vision to be able to thrive in both. He is phenomenal contact balance. His center of gravity is unbelievable. He's got just a great frame on him for his size. He's really hard to find in traffic. And then, if you do manage to make your way across to the play side and find contact with Ashton Genty, he's already running so fast with power and acceleration down the play side that he's going to put his helmet or his shoulder or his stiff arm in your chest and make you go to hell for trying to touch him. He is an exceptional pass blocker and I think a very capable receiver. He's another one of those guys that I would encourage people to think. They told us that Kenneth Walker was not a good receiver coming out of college, and that wasn't true. Kenneth Walker was a good receiver, and he was productive on the touches that he did have out of the backfield in college. They just didn't choose to use him that way. And I think Ashton Genty, in a similar way, can be productive as a receiver out of the backfield. They just chose not to use him in that way because, I mean, look at the type of production that he had against 8 and 9 man boxes. They had no reason to try to, put him out wide or, get unique with him in the passing game. But he's a great pass blocker. He's a 3 down, true 20 to 25 touch per game guy. And I, think he's probably got one of the safest floors in this draft, barring injury, in my opinion.
I would say too, like the one thing that I like about him a lot too, is like his numbers against 6 man, 7 man, 8 man in the box. It's like it's pretty kind of like
It's
it,
unbelievable.
it's pretty crazy. So like I mean, like I said, if like would he help? Would he help my team if he was sitting there at 100%? So like I couldn't get mad at the Raiders for making that deal. You figure like the cornerstone of the offense is Bowers, and then you add who's a top echelon tight end already. Genty would be a top echelon running back immediately as soon as you get him. So that would definitely help the Raiders. But obviously, it's where we're always going to be. People like me and Jay are always going to have an eye on the future quarterback, the guy, the long term quarterback answer for the Raiders. So
understandable.
yeah,
I have a ton of notes here, guys. If anybody has any questions, or I can kind of run down some other guys that were mentioned or that
yeah,
haven't been mentioned.
we got about 10 minutes left, guys. So if you want to chime in,
Yeah. I think it was you that brought up Kyle Monangai out of Rutgers.
yeah.
210, another one of those guys with a low center of gravity. 5'9". This guy had 706 touches in college and never had a single fumble. We're talking about like a 99 ball security rating in Madden with him. He's a good pass blocker. He's not afraid of contact. He plays over his skis a lot. And what I mean by that is he runs with his chest way over his knees. And I think sometimes he tends to pass block like that too. Another guy that we've mentioned in past spaces is Calvin Banks, tends to play over his skis as well. And I think because of that, he, can get off balance sometimes or like, when he breaks, he does break the contact, but because he's over his skis, he doesn't have good balance to stay on his feet and keep the run going. So he's got some clumsy falls. Um, he's not a phenomenal athlete, but he's no nonsense. Like what you see is what you get. He finishes with power. He has a great understanding of pace and acceleration. And I think he'd be like a really good, with his patience and his vision, I think he'd be a really good zone runner in the NFL. Was a guy that you brought up earlier. Um, Talked about Ollie Gordon, talked about R.J. Harvey, Dylan Sampson, Jaden Blue, Quinshawn Judkins, Damian Martinez, um, the receiving guys. You know, who nobody has really talked about ever is Trevor Etienne. I feel like nobody has really talked about Trevor Etienne at all. Um,
I brought
maybe
up his name earlier, by the way.
I
Nonsense.
mean,
Oh, you did? Okay, okay. I
he's a
didn't hear
solid
that.
back, and I think he fumbled one time in his whole Georgia career, right? And
Yeah,
it was the playoff game against Notre Dame, but I mean, you don't talk about ball security and production. Like, he definitely has that.
yeah. Um, Yeah, yeah, he's got decent change of direction. He's a decent receiver. Um, his contact balance is good, not great. Solid athleticism. He probably, I think it's possible for like a Trevor Etienne, to work his way into, a scat back in the NFL, just kind of a change of pace guy. Um, you know, I don't know, is Beast Smoke still in here?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Crazy, man. Like your Michigan guys, like normally Michigan's got, they've got some really good talent out of that backfield. I think, by and large last year the production and the talent really kind of fell off. Probably no surprise that Michigan wasn't as good. But
Yeah. Like I said before, I think actually like somebody like Khalil Mullins would be like a special team stud based on his line, playing linebacker before they had to move him to running back. But he's just overall athletic, and his football IQ is high, and somebody like
yeah,
that, I guess he'd be undrafted free agent. And then we talked about
yeah,
yesterday, like Travion and somebody like Donovan Edwards that has no cutting ability, but would be great possibly on kickoffs, and that'd be about it. Special team and kickoffs.
Yep.
yeah,
But
Yep.
other than
He's a
that,
guy.
like, you're right.
He's a guy who's been dropping dramatically too. So
Oh
for
man, big time.
for the people who are in here right now, in about 15 minutes, Jay and I will be doing a Raider space. So if there are Raider fans in here, we'll do a Raider space as well for about an hour or two as well. So after this, so like around 12:30 Pacific, or 15 minutes from now, we'll be doing a Raider space as well. So just if you want to get your Raider chops in there too, you can.
yeah. I'd probably talk about like one more guy and then we can wrap up. Sounds like the questions are kind of dying out here. But
Yeah.
this is a guy that actually it's funny, I watched a little bit of him and then I was in a space like I think like a day or two later and Cortland brought his name up. Cortland was the guy that had a microphone issues, probably got a phone call, but Cortland brought him up. And so I went and I took a second look at this guy. His name is Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt. He played at Arizona last year. He was at New Mexico before that. He had really good production with New Mexico. He's like 6.3 yards per carry, 17 touchdowns. I think last year he might have had like an eligibility issue with the NCAA and like couldn't play or something like that. I think he only played like one game for AU, but um, he's an angry runner, breakaway speed, good vision, good receiver, like really good jump cut. Probably figures to be like a wide zone guy, but like he is a tough football player. He plays with a nasty streak. He's for his size, he's a violent runner, and makes violent cuts and has violent acceleration. And I wouldn't be surprised if like he works his way into some touches in the NFL. I believe he declared, and he's going to be a part of this draft. So, Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt, look out for him. You talk about a guy that would be really good on special teams as a rookie, B Smoke. Like this guy fits that mold. I mean, he would be a nasty gunner. You know what I mean? Just shot out of a cannon, 1,000 miles an hour off the edge, just detonating punt returners. Like,
Like,
that's this guy right here.
well, like we talked about yesterday in yesterday's space about just being mean, mean spirited, on the field, being able to turn that on. And you look for players like that, especially on special teams and, situational down backs.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Go ahead, Jay. Welcome up, man. What's your question?
Hey, what up? A guy I like doesn't seem to get talked a lot is Jarquez Hunter from Auburn. I'd just like to get your guys' opinion on him.
Yeah, I have some. I definitely watched a little bit of Jarquez. He's like kind of that. I feel like this might be like the new prototype for running back, but like that, that 5'8", 5'9", 200, 210 pounder. Yeah, he's got really solid vision. He's got a good truck stick. I think, by and large, he probably just didn't really have good offensive line play, but he's got breakaway speed. Again, as a pure runner, I think he provides, some value in that regard. He's got a really good center of gravity about him. Again, the good contact balance, but I think for him, a little bit of a, stiff hip guy. I don't think he, has really good lateral quickness. So he might struggle in, some of those zone schemes in the NFL, might be more suited for gap and power. And then he's also not a really good pass blocker. So, so those are the types of things that we look at, when you're trying to get playing time in the NFL as a rookie, that could kind of knock him down a little bit. But look, I think, he's definitely worth a dart throw, maybe at the end of the draft. And I do think that if he doesn't get drafted, that he's going to get some phone calls, as a UDFA, right after the draft for sure.
I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it here. As far as that goes, I want to thank everybody for coming in. This will be on. I will post it again. I will obviously. You can obviously hear it, listen to it later on. I will put it on my YouTube channel as well. So you can definitely you go ahead and send that to friends, family, whoever, so they can get a chance to listen to it, whatever. I want to thank everybody who came in and had questions. Next week, same time, same bad channel. We're going to be doing wide receivers in this class next week. So just so everybody knows, get your wide receiver questions ready. And then I want to thank Nonsense for coming through, Jay and everybody else, Cortland, forgot your name, Jay Wayne. We appreciate y'all coming through, and we will talk to y'all next week.